Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Nesler with Impact Results, and boy, am I excited that Supercross has returned. We've got some special guests coming up in the coming weeks that have been at the race. They're going to be coming back and talking to us about that experience. What was it like in the pits? What was it like getting the team ready? I'm going to keep it a secret for now, but look for a really cool episode coming that I think you guys will enjoy. Hey, I want to tell you about a special offer that RacerX has, but is going to expire on June 10th. You can subscribe for as little as 99 cents to the magazine. So if you've been waiting and you've been holding out, time is running out to get that special offer, and I want you to use my link. You've heard them all. You've heard Weege. You've heard Daniel. You've heard Steve talk about using their link. Well, listen, I'm the new guy on the block. I've got the small little business audience that we're niche, we're little, right? So I need all the help I can get, and there's a little inter squad competition that, quite honestly, I'm losing right now, and I don't like to lose. So if you want to get the special offer before June 10th, you can go to racerxonline/Moto Marketing. Man, it would help me out. Shoot me an Instagram message once you do it, and we'll do something special for you. I also want to tell you about our new friends at the Moto Marketing Podcast, MX Tech. They're suspension manufacturers that specialize in professional aftermarket suspension for riders who want excellent comfort and control. Their quality engineering is based on a lifetime of specializing in dirt bike suspension, and they've developed the Lucky Fork, which features dual springs, dual cartridges, and huck valves. It's also ultra lightweight. MX Tech utilizes the latest in technology and coatings to deliver maximum performance while remaining the lightest shock available. So head over to mx-tech.com for more information. Again, that's mx-tech.com. Tell them that Luke sent you from the Moto Marketing Podcast. All right, we've got a great episode for you today. We're talking to Charles Castloo from 100%. I've been asked more than 5 or 6 times in the last month or so, hey, get 100% on. So I reached out to Charles. I said, hey, man, I'd love to have you on, talk to you about what's the brand doing, and what is the brand doing in these strange times that we're in with COVID-19. So we dive into that with Charles, not just the brand, but really talking to you about what one of the most iconic moto brands in the sport, what are they doing in this time of panic? Now, this was recorded a few weeks ago. Obviously, we're coming out of it at the current time that we recorded this. We weren't sure when we were going to have Supercross, if we were going to have Supercross. So things were a little bit worse a couple weeks ago when we recorded this. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're listening to it. But super interesting to hear what Charles and all the guys at 100%, where their mindset is during a time when so many people are retreating. This brand is pushing forward. So hope you enjoy. And as always, man, I appreciate you guys listening.
Welcome to the Moto Marketing Podcast, presented by RacerX, the podcast for moto industry professionals, entrepreneurs, and riders. If you want to grow your brand and business in today's digital-first world, you have to know how to turn a stranger into a fan, turn a like into a customer. You have to know how to turn attention into dollars. This podcast is dedicated to keeping you in the know on real marketing tactics that work in the moto world so that you grow your business and help grow the sport. Get ready to learn from the very same marketing experts trusted by RacerX, Lucas Oil Pro Motocross, GNCC, and NBC Sports. They'll help you navigate the world of digital marketing for your moto brand. This is the Moto Marketing Podcast. Presented by RacerX.
All right, as promised, we've got a good guest for you today. Somebody that I think you'll be excited to hear from. Somebody that you've definitely heard on other podcasts, and I'm excited to have him join us today. We have Charles Castloo, the sales and marketing manager at 100%, on the line with us. Charles, I appreciate you joining me, and I hope you're staying healthy and safe. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, no worries. I'm glad to join and then talk shop.
Yeah. I mean, we've got plenty of time to do it now. And right. Obviously we're in the middle of it. Hopefully we're close to coming out the other end of this COVID-19. And we're going to talk a little bit about what you guys are doing at 100% right now. Because like we were just talking before we hit record, I think it's pretty remarkable. You guys are playing offense rather than playing defense. And there are a few brands that we work with in the moto space that are doing that, and I think there's a lot to be learned from that play. So we'll talk about that. But you've been with 100% for going on 5 years now. Is that correct?
Correct.
So talk to me a little bit about kind of your journey. I'm curious how you got on board with the brand, if you're able to talk about that. 100% obviously has a very unique story of kind of a rebirth. How big of a role did you play? Did you come into play with 100% during the early years of that rebirth, or talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, I was there pretty early, but definitely not from the beginning of the rebirth by any means. The official relaunch under the new ownership and sort of product direction was 2012. So I came in on the third year, I guess.
Got it.
And Marc Blanchard and Ludo Bernard are the current owners, and the ones that have sort of, I don't want to say refaced it by any means, because it's still very true to the core, and sort of all the same background or backbone of the brand is still intact from the original founder. But the current model, or the current business model that everyone sees it as, is goggles and sunglasses, and on the mountain bike side, protection and gear and things. That's been since 2012.
So it's interesting what you guys have done to where, I mean, there are brands in the space that are really quality products, but then it really kind of ends there. And then there are brands in the space like 100%, and then there are a few others as well that are really quality products, but when somebody wears that logo, whether it's on a t-shirt or on a hat, beyond the product that they sell, it's like this unique society, this niche group of people is what I'm looking for. It's this brand that people can relate to. It's this lifestyle brand, and that just doesn't happen from having a quality product. It comes from several different things. So what are some things, just at a very high level, that you feel has lent 100% to not only having quality products from goggles and eyewear, but has this loyal fan following, that this lifestyle brand that you guys have created? Where did that come from, in your opinion?
I think it's a few things. One, like I mentioned, the sort of the brand backbone, if you will. It just resonates with and connects to so many different people, and can mean so many different things. Just how much effort do you give, and giving your full effort into whatever you're doing, whether that's racing Supercross or, the Tour de France, or whatever it is in your personal life. I think just that general tagline, if you will, or the general meaning of the brand of giving your maximum effort it's so relatable to anybody in any business or profession or athletic competition. So I think that's a one key element to it. And then I think separate from that, just the creative side of the company, and the imagery and the messaging that we do, which I won't take any credit for by any means. Marc Blanchard is co-founder and the creative director of the business. He's the best in the business as far as I'm concerned. And he's been able to really draw that connection between, like I mentioned, the whole message of the brand and giving your maximum effort, and connects that through the imagery that's used and the messaging that goes out with the brand. So it's kind of a holistic approach from both sides.
So when 100% came back as an optics brand, obviously early on, I mean, you guys had the likes of some of the biggest brands in the space to compete with. I won't name them; everybody knows who they are. But now, arguably, I mean, Yeah, and look, full disclosure, 100% as a client, before you guys were even a client, all my cycling glasses were 100%. All of my Moto and BMX goggles were 100%. Now, arguably, I mean, you guys are the brand. How did that happen, and how big of a role did what you just mentioned with the narrative, the storytelling, that what the brand represents, how big of a role did that play in becoming one of, if not the leader in the optic space, in your opinion?
Yeah, I wish I knew exactly what it was. I could replicate it myself. But I think it's a lot of factors on the, strictly the off-road goggle side of things, which is, what we're primarily known for, probably to your listeners that are on the moto side of things. There was, on the business side, there was a few things that aligned perfect. I work out of the same office as Alex. I go in there. I go to the office 4 days a week is primarily my schedule.
Nice.
And then, there are people scattered around a bit. We have, Bevo, which is on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And then Kuzo, which does all the, pro athlete rider support stuff. He's in Indiana.
Gotcha. Obviously, with everything that's going on right now with COVID-19, there are a lot of brands that are really struggling, and a lot of brands that it's struck fear with, right? And the unknown of, hey, when are we going to return to life as normal? And what happens in a time like this is you get, a group of individuals that will pull out, and then you'll get a group of individuals that look at this as an opportunity, and they will push, and they'll double down on their marketing. They'll come up with unique opportunities, and then in some cases, they do things that aren't necessarily to better the brand, but to try and give back when they can. And that's something that I've noticed you guys doing it 100% is you're trying to give back. You've launched the 100% Together campaign to where you're giving back to first responders. So talk about that a little bit, and it's something that I think is pretty remarkable, and whether it's intended to or not, it is going to absolutely help further grow the brand post this crisis, but I think you guys are doing it for more than just that reason. So let's talk about that.
Sure. There's a few things I think as this was developing, we had some product launches that were scheduled in the midst of all this, and as they were coming up on the horizon, we had some discussions, and we're like, hey, it's probably not the best time to try and force, product down people's throats when people are losing their jobs, and there's so much uncertainty. So most of those things we pivoted and look, let's put these on the back burner. We'll put some stuff out on social and some things as products become available, but the primary message coming from us now needs to be, trying to spread positivity and trying to, first and foremost, give back and support, those first responders and the people out on the front lines, whether that's the Goggles for Docs initiative or the donations that we're doing. 20% of all web sales proceeds were being donated to our team fundraising page on cdcfoundation.org. There's so many different things that we're doing that, again, from a brand, we had to take kind of a hard look and go, financially, it would be great to, do these product launches and push this out in front of people, and hopefully they buy things. But realistically speaking, that wasn't the right play, and probably not going to be successful anyway. So, given the current situation, so, we put that on the back burner, and what can we do to help, and what can we do to hopefully drive some positivity and, get people's minds thinking about, again, more positive things versus the doom and gloom that happens if you watch the news too much.
Yeah, and I think, it's obviously a different place to go when so many brands can't justify it to where they're just in straight up survival mode. But I think it is impactful when you can do anything to try to brighten the day of your community in a time like this, and that goes such a long way in the mind of somebody that may or may not even be a consumer. And I mean, you guys are invested in this. This isn't something that you're doing lightly. You're investing ad dollars into a campaign to bring awareness to how you can help first responders. And it's pretty much, I mean, when you look at it, it's a matter of, okay, we're putting money in, but you're not looking at it as what are we going to get in return? You're just trying to get the message out that is bringing hope and a positive message to the community. There's a business influencer. His name's Gary Vaynerchuk. Have you ever heard of him before? So one of his books is The Thank You Economy. Have you ever read that by chance?
I haven't, but I'm going to put that on my list.
It's an older book. I mean, it's probably from 2007, maybe 8. But man, it is such a good book, and what you guys are doing, it's a prime example of that. It's the things that brands and businesses and business owners, big or small, can do without being asked. It's, right. For example, we have something in our business that we call customer love, and it's all of our staff has to do something to attribute to the customer love station every single week. And whether it's a thank you card, or right now we're sending out iPhone chargers to all of our customers and people that aren't even customers with a little handwritten note saying, hey, appreciate you. Hope you're doing well. I figured since everybody's stuck at home, that you could use an extra iPhone charger because maybe your kid is hogging yours. Just little things like that, giving with zero expectation of return. And a lot of times what will happen is you will get so much in return because you're not expecting it and you're giving. And I feel like you guys are doing that right now. Was it a quick decision, or was it something that was contemplated for days and weeks on end before the decision was finally made to move forward with that initiative you guys are doing?
No, it was pretty quick, honestly. And to be honest, Ludo, one of the founder, the CEO of the company, he's been on the front end of this sort of pandemic before. I mean, a couple of weeks before there was any shutdowns or Supercross was still alive and kicking at this point. He had the foresight to see, look, this is things are happening big over in China and other countries and on other continents, and this is going to hit us and affect us. So that ball started rolling well before people here were even, acknowledging the fact that there was a global crisis on the horizon. So while the decision was pretty quick, the decision-making process had started much earlier than most other companies before they were even thinking about stuff. But it sort of, it evolved over the weeks as things escalated and got more serious. But yeah, ultimately the decision was pretty quick. And I think one of the worst things, in my personal opinion, a brand can do in a time like this is try to capitalize on something like this, you know what I mean? And try to use it as a sales tool, like, oh, you're stuck at home, here's an ad for whatever it is, some sort of work from home widget or, whatever that might be, or here's a discount code to, stimulate some sales on our website at the time. Like, to me, that's all just like a desperate play that can totally backfire on you under the wrong, if someone interprets something wrong, versus sort of a more neutral, organic approach that we've taken, is just try to put out positive imagery and positive messages and things like that.
Do you think that is a better approach? What you've done currently, what you guys are doing right now, is a better approach than hunkering down and doing nothing, and then, hey, I'll let this thing ride out, and then once it is officially gone, we'll come back to life and business will resume as usual? I have a feeling that's not how you guys think. So what's your approach to, or your thought process on that, when so many brands are doing that because they're scared? It might not be like it was when things changed. And being on the offense like you guys have plays, a major role in the success you'll have in the future. So what are your all's thoughts internally on that, playing offense when so many are playing defense?
Yeah. And full transparency, we have put some things on pause, some advertising spends and things like that. And who knows what the future holds with that. I think when things start to clear up, we'll, resume all of those commitments that we had and get back to normal for the most part. But in the meantime, like you said, we're trying to be on offense without spending a significant more, amount of money that, and so the play there was, let's find inspiring imagery and put together the 100% together campaign based on imagery that we already had for other different things. And then, peeling back the layers and jumping into the donation parts and like I mentioned, the Goggles for Docs initiative that came up, and all those things sort of, I would say organically happen, but when, you're looking for things like that to get involved with, it's easy to find those things. And then putting those messages out that's not expensive advertising that we're using to put those messages out. Is using our, just endemic outlets and,
sure.
Or social media or our email blasts and things like that. So spreading those messages was very cost effective and isn't a big spend that we're doing. But, again, the whole purpose is just to spread some positivity and again, try to give back.
Right. So there are starting to be signs that life will and the sport are going to start to return to normal, hopefully sooner than later. I mean, as of recording this episode, I believe it was Sunday. So yesterday, there started to be news breaking about Feld getting together and trying to figure out how they can make the whole Supercross season make sense. How can we wrap this thing up in Arizona and get the final 7 rounds in? But it might be to where it's just the essential people that have to be there. Obviously, no fans and limited staff and crew. How much event activation and boots on the ground type work do you guys have that you bank on and rely on for not only Supercross but motocross that's going to be disrupted if the Supercross season resumes now as opposed to maybe later in the season? Or do you guys do any event activation at the Supercross rounds?
We don't do any direct event activation at Supercross. We have a big position at Outdoors as the official eyewear sponsor of the series. So we typically have some quite a bit more activation at Outdoor Nationals, which, we're sort of internally we're in a holding pattern. We have a couple scenarios that we've discussed depending on the timing and the ability to activate at those events if and when they start. And then on the Supercross side of things, John Cuso attends all of them, building the goggles and, working direct race support with all the top level guys. So I would assume that would be an essential, member there. But at this point, nobody knows. We're all sort of in the dark, and anybody that's making decisions or making these, solidified plans, they're kind of kidding themselves at this point. I think it's still a little bit too early to jump and make hard decisions. And but yeah, I think you're right. Things are starting to take shape, and I think over the next couple weeks we should start to see some things, and then we can start to react and put some plans in place. But as we sit today, it's just
it's still a lot of
so much uncertainty.
Yeah.
Right.
At least there's glimmers of hope that, hey, we might actually have a Supercross season, a motocross season. Whereas 2 weeks ago, man, it's crazy. It's only been about a month as a recording of this show that we've been in, this kind of the economy is shut down type of a situation. But man, it sure does feel a heck of a lot longer than that. So I will be happy when it does resume. Hey, something I've always been curious about, and I think you'd be, being the sales and marketing manager, I think you're a really good person to speak to this. Obviously, being in marketing myself, we get hired on the goal that a client has to generate a trackable, measurable result. Despite what magazine articles or what you heard from the YouTube influencer, like, clients really don't care at the end of the day about how much engagement you got them on social media. As a vendor, I am hired specifically to generate trackable, measurable sales for clients like you guys. you're in so many different areas. You're not just doing social. You're in traditional print. You're at event activation. You do so many different things. How do you guys piece that all together to look at it, monthly, quarterly, yearly, to say, hey, this was a really good decision and this was not? Are you looking at several metrics like, what happened at the event that you activated at, or online engagement, or online sales, or subscribership to this magazine? Like, what are some things that you look at to really be the North Star of, hey, I think we're making the right decision in placing our investment, our money here with these marketing programs?
Yeah, and that's tough because the market and the advertising consumer landscape is ever changing as technology evolves and people's habits evolve. And if you would have said, I don't even know, 5, 6, 7 years ago that social media it was around, but if you were going to say this was the primary, most efficient way to deliver a message to consumers at that point, it was kind of like, really? I don't see that happening. Or rewind 10 or 15 years ago, print was king, and everything else was sort of trying to figure out ways to compete with it. And now print is obviously taken a lot of some big steps backwards, and only the really successful and efficient ones are still around. And so for us, it's we really like to measure things, right? And then as you were saying, you deliver specific measurable results, and so we try to measure things as best as we can. There's a lot of things that go into those that sometimes aren't as easily measured, that you have to kind of take a gut check on and say, yeah, that was the right thing to do, or know that at the end of the day, it didn't really make a lot of sense. So, we try to, any kind of digital advertising, we try to collect all the metrics, whatever we possibly can, whether it's, clicks or, retention, time on our site after they got there, and obviously transactions, things like that, are nice to know and use as some sort of gauge to measure. But ultimately those metrics are just reference points that it can't be the live and die, Bible, because there is, a level of brand,
right,
messaging and equity and things that you're trying to raise through those advertising as well. It's not all about, transactions and purchasing. So it's a difficult balancing act. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just taking all the data and information you can get from each ad buy or event or whatever it may be, and just trying to look at it as neutral as you can, and try to figure out ways to correlate them so that you're even equally comparing those things, and they're all so drastic it's difficult to do. But we as a company have a sort of a summit meeting towards the end of each year in the fourth quarter, and at that time, we put together everything that we did for that year, and then kind of look at ideas for the following year. And at that point, we sort of tried to objectively look at all those things that we spent money on and say, yeah, that didn't work, or yes, this worked, or this is sort of TBD whether that worked or didn't work.
Have you guys dabbled in the realm of influencer marketing? I mean, it's something that's become extremely popular, and I think it's a growing opportunity in the moto space, just because every athlete has the opportunity to be more of an influencer than just on race day. And now you have people like Dio, who's just an average everyday guy who has a regular job, but he has a large following on YouTube. Is that something that 100% has considered? You're currently, doing that with certain athletes or non-athletes, or where do you guys stand with that right now?
Right now, we don't really have anyone that we hire as just strictly an influencer. We certainly look at people's reach and their follower base and who they connect with
as far as
when we're deciding what athletes to. Sure, yeah. Like someone like Dean Wilson, is great at social media and has a great following, and so Dean is certainly someone we like to be aligned with, and you kind of can break it into two different groups. They can be, these are our guys that are here to win races, and these are our guys that are, bring something else unique to the table, because you need both of those. You need to play on both sides of that fence. So we certainly have athletes that are hired. They're obviously great at riding motorcycles as well, or bicycles, or playing baseball, whatever that may be. But we also certainly consider their following as well. And then organically, the brand has, I don't want to say stumbled across things, but there's been some very high level entertainers and such that have showed up on social media wearing our goggles, or wearing our mountain bike shorts, or whatever it may be, that would, a lot of brands, the right companies would spend a lot of money to get that sort of organic exposure that those people have just chosen to buy our products or get them from wherever they get them from. Back to our initial part of this conversation, because they think the brand name is cool, or the message of the brand is cool. And so we've sort of backed ourselves into those situations that other people, again, have paid for that sort of influencer message.
Yeah, it's such an interesting space, because there's so much opportunity in moto for that guy that has pretty decent results to have just an outstanding social following. There's a lot of untapped potential compared to, there are girls, little girls, 16, 17-year-old girls on TikTok that make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in brand deal endorsements, and it's
mind blowing.
Yeah, and when you see that, and we work primarily in moto and cycling, but we are with a few other clients that are non-endemic to the sport, and when you see what some of these brands spend on just an average everyday person that's got a large following, you look at a Blake Baggett, who's hilarious, but does next to nothing as far as really showing his brand beyond what maybe Pulp will put out or something like that. And you're like, man, these guys are just missing out on, such cool partnerships with brands like 100%, it hasn't reached its potential yet. So, if you're a brand listening to this and you have the opportunity to work with somebody that has a following, you can get them cheap, and you can bring them value, and they can bring you value for much less than what a average 17-year-old girl on TikTok is getting paid these days. It's kind of right. It makes me question my decisions with where I went with my career. It's crazy stuff.
And the funny side is, on the moto athletes, for the most part, seem to be ahead of a lot of other sports. And I don't know what to attribute that to, or why that is, but you start looking at some mainstream or stick and ball sport. Of course, there's a super elite, athletes with millions of followers, but I think the general population of those athletes, the moto guys are ahead of them in terms of followers and engagement rates and such, which is odd. And I wish I could put my finger on exactly what it is or why. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, if you could bottle that up and sell it, it would be worth a lot of money. I don't know, that's
right.
One thing that I don't think anybody has the answer to. It's what different strokes for different folks. The stuff that some people follow, I find extremely boring, but man, they got millions of followers and engagement is through the roof. And hey, as we kind of wrap this up, I know you're busy, and I want to let you get back to everything that you're working on. You've worked on a lot of stuff since you've been there. You've been there nearly 5 years. You've been part of a lot of different cool launches, a lot of really cool campaigns. I'm sure you've worked with a lot of really special athletes and just people within the company. What's the one thing you're the most proud of that you've had the opportunity of working on, maybe a project or anything like that at 100% since your time being there?
To me, that would be the Armega goggle launch that we did last spring. Cause I had a big hand in that, and I was involved in a lot of different parts of it. There's obviously a big team here that I'm in no way saying I did it all or anything like that, but I had a significant front seat role in the planning of, the rollout of that, from the, media launch event to, we had a ride day portion of that and a presentation for all the media at our office. And, the rollout of the advertising campaign that was, very heavily orchestrated to, have product at distributors' warehouses at the exact time that all these assets went live. And it was a very, very detailed launch that, was very gratifying once it all came out. And I was also, dabbled a little bit in the product development side of that as well. As a writer, I was able to test the product and, give my input and 2 cents on different features and functionality of it. And so for all that to come together, it was, it was a pretty gratifying point.
Yeah, that's, I'm sure that project was fun to work on, and everything around it was pretty special. I mean, the coverage that you guys had media wise got a lot of attention and was pretty cool. And it's an awesome product. I mean, I use it myself, and the reason I do is before we work together, the reason I use it is because of all the attention and the publicity that it got. So obviously, when things are done right and things are planned out ahead of time for a smaller brand that might be listening to this, that roadmap leading up to something, if you can do some type of a launch yourself and you partner with the right people, obviously it goes much better than flying by the seat of your pants.
Sure. Yeah.
And obviously with what you guys are doing right now, still playing offense, but doing it for, the right reasons, not just trying to shuck sales, but really trying to put a smile on somebody's face or let those first responders know that there are brands like you guys that have their back. Commend you guys for that. I think it's something special. My chief marketing officer's wife is a nurse, and when he was having conversations with people from your team about these campaigns, it meant a lot to him and his wife. So being able to see that firsthand was pretty special. So from everybody at my company and and beyond, we appreciate you guys doing that, and I think it's pretty cool what you've done to give back.
Yeah, no problem. We're glad to do it and glad to help those that, are in the front lines of all this and doing their best to keep people safe and healthy for sure.
For sure. Well, man, I appreciate you being on the show today. For anybody that might be living under a rock, if they haven't followed you guys on social, I encourage them to do so. You can check everything that Charles works on over at 100%.com. It's 100% spelled out .com. And man, I really appreciate you being on the show, and look forward to having another conversation with you here soon.
Yeah, no problem, Luke. I appreciate the time, and thanks for including us.
Thank you for listening to the Moto Marketing Podcast. If your goal is to get real, measurable results from your marketing that will grow your company revenue, then check out how Impact Media can get the same results that they have for Moto's most iconic brands by visiting thinkimpact.com. That's THINKIMPAKT.com. Have a marketing question that you want answered on the show? Send your questions to questions@motomarketingpodcast.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast.